Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm finally getting better after a few weeks of cold and/or flu, and I wasn't the only one. My kid got it, my wife got it, and being sick, especially for an extended period of time, can make you quite grumpy. With multiple grumpy sick people in the same house, arguments can arise over some fairly trivial subjects. Fortunately, we managed to keep it together enough to make it through, but I can't say the same about the people on this list. Here are 5 more people who killed over nothing. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of board games. When someone asks me to play, I will to be nice, but I don't really like it. In the case of brothers Jacob Cobb, Andrew Cobb, and Dylan Clemens, they really didn't want to play. It was Christmas evening in Alberta, Minnesota, when Tamara Mason suggested she and her 3 boys play a friendly game of Yahtzee. Apparently, youngest brother Jacob was so adamant about not playing that he began strangling her on the living room floor. When Andrew heard the commotion, he rushed to the struggling woman, but not to save the life of his mother. No, he came out and put a plastic bag over her head and assisted with the killing. Oldest brother Dylan hid the body until the frozen ground had thawed enough for the boys to bury her in the backyard. Dylan went to the police himself and reported Tamara missing, telling them that she had gotten angry when the boys wouldn't play Yahtzee with her, so she grabbed some items and left. He claimed they hadn't seen her since. Reports of the murder started coming into the police after the boys started mentioning the killing to their friends. Investigators searched the property and found Tamara's remains. Jacob was eventually convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 10 years. His brothers Andrew and Dylan were convicted of aiding an offender. Dylan was sentenced to 9 years, while Andrew was sentenced to just 22.5 months and released with time served. I wonder if they have Yahtzee in prison. Driving in Southern California is well known to be quite a stressful situation. That might be why road rage incidents happen so frequently in that area. In May of 2015, Darla Jackson had a vehicular altercation with Navy Chief Petty Officer Zachary Boab, who was driving a red Ducati motorcycle on the highway in San Diego. Zachary attempted to get into the furthest left lane in front of Darla, who was driving a Nissan Altima. Witnesses say that Darla sped up, even swerving into the left shoulder in order to not let the motorcyclist into the lane. He made a hand gesture at her and kicked her passenger side door and then sped off. In response, Darla began tailgating Zachary and eventually struck him from behind and proceeded to run him over. The motorcyclist died at the hospital an hour later. Darla was originally charged with murder because prosecutors believed she intentionally ran him down and killed him due to her uncontrollable anger. Her lawyer claimed that she only chased Zachary down because she was trying to get his information after he kicked her car, but a video was released by witnesses that showed her aggressive driving. 2 ex-boyfriends came forward who had restraining orders against her, one of whom claims she tried to run him down with her car, and friends have stated she has a history of violence. DMV records also showed she had just had her license reinstated after having it suspended for 2 years for lack of skill. In January of 2017, Darla ended up pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter. She was sentenced to 6 years in prison. People can be quite passionate about food, and when their meal is ruined by being cooked poorly, they can become rather emotional. That's what happened in Mosta, Malta in February of 1999 when 73-year-old Francis Buhagiar got into an argument with his 67-year-old sister Maria. Now, the siblings lived together and Maria helped care for her brother. People that knew them said that they always seemed to have a really good relationship, but at the end of 1998 that changed. They began arguing often about trivial matters. It was reported that Francis believed that his sister wasn't doing a proper job of caring for him. On February 16, 1999, Francis was upset about the fact that Maria had burnt his toast, something that Francis was not going to tolerate. He retrieved a gun that he had hidden in another part of the house, went to his sister's room and shot her in the neck. She died almost instantly. Francis then threw the pistol in a well. He was arrested and charged with willful homicide as well as getting a charge for illegal possession of a firearm. His defense tried to claim he was not sane at the time of the murder, but Francis was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years for the murder and a fine for the firearm possession. Toilet paper has become the topic of interest a number of times in the past. It's understandable, as it's not really something you want to be without when nature calls. Though in recent years there have been people fighting over the availability of toilet paper at the store, this story takes us back to 2006. Franklin Paul Crow was upset at his roommate Kenneth Matthews because there was no toilet paper in their home. The argument lasted all weekend, and when Kenneth pulled out a rifle, Franklin began beating him with a sledgehammer and a claw hammer. After the victim's body was discovered by their landlord, he reported it to the police. Kenneth's injuries were so severe that he had to be identified through fingerprints. Franklin initially denied killing his roommate, but eventually confessed. He pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. At the age of 59, it's unlikely he will ever see the outside world again. It's not uncommon to have a dispute between neighbors, especially in neighborhoods where the houses are so close together you might be affected by the goings-on inside the dwelling next to you. For Trevor Gibbon of London, England, the noise from his neighbors was so bad he felt his only course of action was murder. After the Morrison family moved in next door, he repeatedly complained about the noise, but nothing could be done to ease his suffering. He started aggressively harassing the Morrisons by banging trash can lids in the early hours of the morning and flashing his car lights into their windows. Eventually, the local magistrate felt he was being out of line and placed a restraining order against him. That must have been the straw that broke the camel's back, because he then waited for Allison Morrison to walk to the bus stop and stabbed her 40 times, killing her. He then fled in his Mercedes, but was apprehended 100 miles or 160 kilometers away and sentenced to life in prison, where noise complaints will most likely not be tolerated. I know times are tough and it's easy to get stressed and irritable, but nobody deserves to die over something as petty as noise, burnt toast, or even a game of Yahtzee. When someone is bothering you, take a deep breath and try to remember that what you're feeling in the moment is not a good reason to become a monster. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave us a comment. You can check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.